Hello, my dear. If you're over 70 or getting close, you've probably noticed something quiet but powerful. The women who seem the happiest aren't the ones chasing big changes. They're the ones who found small, steady ways to make peace with their days. They're not perfect. They don't have it all figured out. But there's a calmness about them, a sense of ease that shows up in how they fold their sweaters or hum while stirring a pot of soup. Lately, I've been paying attention to what these women do, the little things they practice every day without even thinking. And I started to notice patterns, not rules, not routines, but habits that feel like gentle anchors. Habits that remind you you're still here, still whole, still you. So today, I want to share a few of those with you, not as advice, but as a quiet invitation. Come sit with me for a while. Let's look at these moments together. No pressure to fix anything. Just a space to remember what already brings you comfort, joy, and a little lightness inside. If you enjoy this kind of gentle encouragement, go ahead and like or share this video. And subscribe if you haven't already. We'd love to have you here. Comment 1 if any of these habits feel like something you already do, or 0 if you might try one. Your voice helps shape this community. Now, if you've got your tea nearby, let's begin with something simple. Something that changed the way I greet my mornings. Begin day with quiet. Most mornings, before I even reach for my slippers, I pause. Just a moment, eyes still soft with sleep, covers still warm around me. I don't rush to the kitchen or check the time. I just let the quiet settle around me, like a soft shawl pulled gently over the shoulders of the day. For years, I didn't do this. I'd spring out of bed like a wind-up doll, laundry to start, meals to plan, calls to return. But now I understand that how I begin matters. A lot more than I ever gave it credit for. These early minutes, before the world asks anything of me, belong to me. I lie there and breathe. Sometimes I think of a grandchild's laugh from last week, or the way the leaves looked yesterday, just starting to turn gold. Other days, I whisper a quiet prayer or simply place a hand on my heart. It's not about being productive. It's about being present. And I've come to learn there's real wisdom behind this practice. Research shows that starting the day with even a brief moment of stillness can lower morning cortisol levels, the stress hormone that spikes when we wake. That means better focus, steadier emotions, and even more balanced blood pressure. It's a kind of inner anchoring, a reminder that I'm not just reacting to life, I'm showing up for it. I like to think of it as greeting the day like an old friend. No need to rush into conversation, just a smile, a pause, and the quiet comfort of being together again. So tomorrow, maybe give it a try. Before you rise, before the lists and tasks come tumbling in, rest a little longer in your own presence. Breathe in slowly. 3 deep breaths. That's all it takes to shift the whole day. And once I've had that gentle beginning, I always find myself looking for something to smile about. It's a small ritual, but it makes the rest of the morning feel lighter. I'll tell you about that. Let something delight me. After I rise and wash up, there's always a quiet search. Nothing grand, just a little hunt for something that makes me smile. It might be the way the morning light dances on the kitchen counter, or how the birds outside seem to be chatting like old ladies at the bakery. Sometimes it's a silly mug I've had for years with a cat that winks at me, faded and chipped, but still cheeky. I pour my tea, hold the warmth between my palms, and just let myself enjoy that moment. There was a time I felt guilty for this, for lingering over toast or chuckling at something in the newspaper. I used to think delight was something you had to earn. After the work was done, the house was tidy, everyone else taken care of. But the truth is, joy doesn't need permission. And it doesn't have to be big. I read recently that noticing small pleasures, like color, texture, taste, actually rewires the brain toward gratitude. It activates parts of the brain linked to contentment and even reduces symptoms of depression in older adults. Isn't that something? A juicy slice of peach, a breeze through the curtains, the familiar clink of a spoon in a cup. These aren't just nice, they're healing. So now I let myself find one thing, just one, that brings me delight each morning. I don't force it. I just notice. And when I do, it softens the rest of the day. Like butter on warm bread, everything just eases. This morning, for example, I caught myself grinning at the neighbor's dog chasing a leaf across the yard. A big, fluffy tail wagging like it was chasing treasure. I stood there at the sink, hands still wet, just smiling to myself. And that one moment was enough. These little sparks of joy, they lead the way into the rest of my morning, and they remind me that happiness isn't found somewhere far off. Sometimes it's right there, in the shape of a leaf, the steam of your tea, or the sound of your own quiet laugh. Next, I'll share what I do when my mind starts spinning with too much noise. Because even the happiest of days can begin with a little worry. Say no without guilt. A few weeks ago, my friend Ruth called and asked if I wanted to join her for a craft fair across town. It was a sweet invitation, and years ago, I would have said yes immediately. Not because I wanted to go, but because I didn't want to disappoint her. But this time I paused. I looked at my calendar. I checked in with my energy. And then I gently said, "Ruth, I love you, but I think I'll sit this one out." There was a small silence, the kind that used to make me panic. But then Ruth just laughed and said, "Good for you." That moment stayed with me, not because it was dramatic, but because it was so calm. I didn't scramble for excuses. I didn't apologize 3 times. I just honored my no, the way I'd spent most of my life honoring everyone else's yes. It took me decades to learn that saying no is not rejection, it's protection of my energy, my peace, my time. And here's something I found comforting. Research shows that people who set healthy boundaries tend to have stronger self-esteem and lower rates of anxiety. It's not about being difficult. It's about being honest. With others, yes, but especially with yourself. These days, I don't overbook. I don't explain too much. I just say things like, "Thank you for thinking of me." I won't be able to, but I hope it's wonderful. And that's it. No guilt. Or at least, not much. I still catch myself sometimes, worrying I've let someone down. But more often now, I feel something else. Relief, space, self-trust. And you know what? Most people understand, especially the ones who matter. So today, if something feels like too much, give yourself permission to say no, with kindness and without apology. You don't need to explain. You just need to listen to what your body, your heart, and your spirit are telling you. Next, I'll tell you how I use that freed up time, because it's not just about saying no to things, but saying yes to what truly restores you. Move my body, even just a little. Most days, I don't do anything fancy. No yoga mats or exercise plans. Just movement. Gentle, steady, kind. Sometimes it's a slow stretch at the kitchen counter while the tea steeps. Arms overhead, spine long, like I'm waking up every inch of myself. Other times, it's sweeping the porch or walking a few laps around the garden, listening to the soft crunch of gravel underfoot. When I was younger, exercise felt like a chore, something I had to do to fit into a pair of pants or meet someone's expectations. But now I move because it feels good, because it reminds me I'm here, still capable, still part of the rhythm of life. I remember one afternoon, I was watering the plants and started swaying a little with the breeze. Nothing planned, just letting my body follow the moment. A neighbor walking by smiled and said, "Looks like you're dancing." And you know what? I think I was. Science backs this up too. Even light movement, stretching, walking, swaying, boosts endorphins and increases circulation to the brain, helping with mood and memory. Especially for older women, regular movement is tied to better sleep, lower anxiety, and even improved self-image. But I don't do it because of the science. I do it because it makes me feel alive. And on days when my joints are stiff or the world feels heavy, that tiny act, a walk around the block, or just rocking side to side while brushing my teeth, reminds me that I'm not stuck. I can still move through life. So if you haven't moved yet today, maybe stand up, roll your shoulders back, and stretch just a bit. Let your body remind you you're still dancing in your own way. Next, I'll share what I do when my thoughts feel noisy and how I find peace again in the simplest way. Give my mind a gentle place to land. The other day, my granddaughter asked me, "Grandma, what do you do when your head feels too full?" I smiled because, well, what a question. And what a feeling. That swirling mind where one small worry pulls in another, then another, until you're thinking about the neighbor's knee surgery, the dent in the fridge, and whether you remembered to water the fern, all in the same breath. I told her, "You know what I do, sweetheart? I find one small thing I can hold on to. Something real. Something now. For me, that's usually writing. Just a little. I keep a notepad near the kettle. While the water heats, I jot down whatever's buzzing in my brain. Sometimes it's a grocery list. Sometimes it's a thought I didn't even know I had. There's no pressure to be wise, just honest. And when I do that, the noise starts to quiet." There's research behind this, too. Studies show that expressive writing, even for 5 minutes, can reduce overthinking, ease anxiety, and improve emotional clarity. It's not about solving every problem. It's about making space inside your mind to breathe. On days when I don't feel like writing, I do something with my hands. Fold towels, organize the spice drawer, or water the houseplants. That gentle rhythm, that touch of purpose, it gives my thoughts a place to rest, a soft landing instead of a spiral. And sometimes I just sit with a warm mug between my palms, look out the window, and whisper, "Let it be enough." So if your thoughts feel noisy today, try this. Write down 3 words that describe how you feel. That's it. Not to fix it, just to name it. Because when you name it, it loses its grip. Next, I'll tell you why I never let a day go by without reaching out, even if it's just a single thinking of you message. Reach out, even if just a little. A few months ago, I found an old recipe card tucked between 2 cookbooks. It was in Joan's handwriting, loopy, a little messy, and unmistakably hers. We haven't spoken in years, not out of falling out, just life drifting, as it sometimes does. I looked at that card for a long time, Then I picked up the phone and called her. She was surprised. Her voice cracked when she said my name, and I felt something warm bloom in my chest, like the softest light finding a dark room. We didn't talk long, just enough to laugh about our failed lemon pudding and to promise we wouldn't let years pass like that again. Since then, I've made it a quiet habit, reaching out. Not every day, not to everyone, but once in a while, I send a photo, a memory, or just a thinking of you. No need to reply. And every time I do, something in me softens. You see, connection doesn't always need a full conversation. Sometimes it's just letting someone know they still have a place in your heart. And there's research to back this up. Psychologists say that even brief social contact, like a kind message or phone call, boosts oxytocin, the hormone linked to trust and connection. It helps regulate mood, reduce loneliness, and even improve immune function in older adults. But more than that, it just feels good, like warming both hands around a cup of tea you've shared 100 times before. So here's your small invitation today. Think of one person you haven't spoken to in a while. No pressure, just a gentle nudge. Reach out with a sentence, a photo, or even a memory. Not for a reply, just for the kindness of remembering. Next, I'll share how I make space in my day for wonder, even when the day itself feels plain. Let myself feel amazed. There's a tree just outside my bedroom window, a tall, quiet maple that's been there longer than I have. Most days, I hardly notice it. But one morning last fall, the sun hit it just right, and the whole thing lit up like it was made of stained glass. I stood there in my robe, toothbrush still in hand, and whispered out loud, "Would you look at that?" That small moment of stopping, really seeing, and letting myself be amazed, it stayed with me. Since then, I've made it a quiet practice, noticing one thing each day that makes me pause. A robin hopping across the grass, the way steam curls off a cup, the laugh of a child across the street. Noticing it and letting myself feel it. And here's the thing, science says this matters. Researchers call it awe, and it turns out it's more than a feeling. Experiencing even tiny moments of wonder has been shown to calm the nervous system, reduce inflammation, and increase life satisfaction, especially in older adults. It shifts us out of self-focus and into something bigger, something beautiful. I'm not talking about fireworks or mountaintops. I'm talking about the little miracles we miss when we're too busy thinking about what's next. A leaf turning in the wind, the sound of the rain hitting the roof, the smell of toast in the morning. Letting yourself be amazed doesn't mean life is perfect. It means you're still in it, still open, still able to be moved. So tomorrow, if the light lands just right on your kitchen wall, or you catch a scent from your childhood, pause. Let it in. Let it move something in you. Next, I'll share how I keep my space calm, not by scrubbing, but by creating little corners of peace. Keep one corner calm. There's a little spot in my living room, by the window, just beside the bookshelf, where I keep a chair, a lamp, and a folded throw blanket. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. It's the place I go when I want to breathe a little deeper or think without being pulled in 5 directions. It didn't start as anything special. At first, it was just where the chair happened to fit. But over time, I added a few touches. A small table for my tea, a coaster from a trip long ago, and a tiny dish of lavender buds my neighbor brought back from France. And now, it's my little haven. I don't keep the whole house spotless, not anymore. I used to try. But these days, I've learned that peace doesn't come from perfection. It comes from intention. Research actually supports this. Studies have shown that having even one restorative space at home, somewhere uncluttered, quiet, and personal, can lower heart rate, ease mental fatigue, and boost emotional well-being. And it doesn't have to be big, just yours. When the world feels loud, I don't always need answers. Sometimes I just need a soft chair, a warm light, and the hum of quiet around me. And the beautiful thing is, you can start with just a corner, one cushion, one candle, one drawer cleared out to make room for breath. So today, I invite you to claim one small space for yourself, not to decorate for others, but to restore yourself. Let it be imperfect. Let it be real. Let it feel like you. Next, I'll tell you how I use quiet moments to reconnect with something deeper, something I once forgot to listen to. Check in with myself gently. Most days, right before lunch, I take a moment to ask myself a simple question. How am I really? Not in a dramatic way, not out loud, just quietly, like you'd check in on a friend. I'll usually be in the middle of something, peeling an apple, folding a towel, and I'll pause. I'll notice if my shoulders are tight or if there's a heaviness behind my smile. And I'll just listen. For so long, I didn't do this. I was too busy being useful. I knew how everyone else was doing. My children, my neighbors, even the cat. But me? I was a mystery to myself. Now I give myself that kindness. A few breaths, a hand over my chest. Sometimes I'll say, "You're doing okay. You really are." Or if I'm not, I say that too. And here's the truth. This tiny act of checking in, it's more powerful than it seems. Psychologists call it emotional awareness, and it's been linked to better mental health, fewer mood swings, and greater resilience, especially in older adults. Just naming what you feel can calm your nervous system and reduce reactivity. It's like turning on a light in a dark hallway. It doesn't fix everything, but it makes me feel seen, and sometimes that's enough. Yesterday, for instance, I felt this strange little ache of missing someone, though I didn't know who. I didn't brush it off. I sat with it, made myself a cup of chamomile, and let the feeling pass through, like a cloud across the sky. I didn't push it away. I didn't turn it into a project. I just let it be. So today, maybe ask yourself, how am I, really? And answer with softness, not to change anything, just to know. Because even now, especially now, you deserve to be known by you. Next, I'll share how I keep something playful in my life, because joy isn't just for the young, it's for the living. Let myself be a little silly. Last Tuesday, I danced in the kitchen with a banana in my hand. No music, just me humming an old tune, flipping pancakes and spinning like I was on a ballroom floor. Why? I don't really know. It just felt right. When I was younger, I was so careful, so composed. But the older I get, the more I realize that joy often sneaks in through the silliest of doors. Singing off-key while doing the dishes, talking to the plants like they're old friends, making up rhymes while folding laundry, laughing at my own jokes before I even finish them. Not everything has to be meaningful. Some things can just be fun. And here's a lovely little fact. Researchers have found that playful behavior, especially in older adults, is linked to increased cognitive flexibility, lower levels of stress, and even better social connection. In short, a little silliness keeps the brain young and the heart open. Last week, my grandson asked why I wear two different socks sometimes. I told him, because it makes me laugh when I look down. He grinned and said, "That's weird." I said, "That's joy." We often think wisdom comes from being serious, but I've learned that part of being wise is knowing when not to take yourself too seriously. Life is already hard enough. Why not bring a little play into the ordinary? And funny enough, the more I let go and laugh, the easier it is to let other things go too. Like the small annoyances, the little mistakes, the things I used to dwell on. That's something I've been learning more deeply lately, and I'd love to share it with you next. Let go of the little things, faster than I used to. Not long ago, I spilled coffee on the front of my blouse right before a neighbor came by for a visit. The old me, the younger me, would have rushed to change, fussed over the stain, apologized 3 times. But now, I just laughed. "Oh well," I said, "proof I've already had 1 good cup today." She laughed too, and just like that, the moment passed. You see, I've learned something with time. Not every wrinkle needs smoothing. Not every inconvenience is a crisis. Some things are just things, and the faster I let go of them, the lighter I feel. It wasn't always this way. I used to hold on to the smallest slights, replay old conversations, try to make everything just right. But now, I choose peace over perfection, freedom over fuss. There's actually science behind this. Studies on aging and emotional health show that older adults, especially women, are better at regulating emotions and bouncing back from stress than younger folks. Not because we're tougher, but because we've learned what's worth our energy. And most of it truly isn't. So now, when the bread burns, or I forget where I left my keys, I smile and say, "Well, I guess we're having toast with character." And life goes on. If something small is bothering you today, maybe ask yourself, will this matter a week from now? A month? If not, try letting it float away like steam from a kettle. You deserve the kind of peace that doesn't need everything to go right. Next, I'll tell you the one habit that helps me feel grounded, even on the loneliest of days. Root myself in something bigger. Some days I feel a little untethered. You know the feeling, when the house is too quiet, the phone doesn't ring, and the day stretches long without much shape. On those days, I reach for something that steadies me, something that reminds me I'm part of a larger story. For me, that's sitting outside under the sky, looking up at the clouds, letting my feet press into the earth. Sometimes I say a short prayer. Other times, I just close my eyes and breathe. Deeply, slowly, like the world isn't rushing, and neither am I. You don't have to call it anything. Faith, spirit, gratitude, nature. But I think we all need something that helps us feel connected to the earth, to each other, to whatever helps us feel held. There's real beauty in this. Research shows that having a sense of spiritual or emotional grounding, whether through prayer, meditation, or time in nature, can reduce loneliness, ease chronic pain, and even increase life satisfaction in older adults. It doesn't have to be formal, just felt. Sometimes when I feel especially out of sorts, I place my hand over my heart and whisper, "You are part of something good." I don't always believe it in the moment, but saying it helps me remember. because even on the loneliest days, we're never truly alone. There's always something waiting to hold us, if we're willing to pause and notice. So today, find a quiet spot, outside, near a window, or just in your own breath, and let yourself feel connected to something bigger than your to-do list. Let it steady you. You deserve that feeling. Now, let's wrap this up together with a few soft thoughts to carry forward. So here we are, my dear, 12 gentle habits, not to perfect life, but to live it more truly. Not one of them came from a book or a list. They came from years of learning, forgetting, relearning, from quiet mornings, aching knees, long phone calls, and the soft realization that happiness doesn't arrive all at once. It grows. In the cup of tea you drink slowly, in the boundary you set kindly, in the window you open to let the breeze in, just because it feels good. These aren't just habits. They're quiet acts of self-respect. And when practiced over time, they form a kind of rhythm. A life that no longer needs to prove itself. A life that feels like home. I hope, as you listened, you found something that felt familiar. Or perhaps something you'd like to try. Not because you need fixing, but because you deserve ease, peace, joy, and the dignity of a life lived with care. They say it takes time to build a good life. But here's what I know. You've already lived so much of it. Now is the time to live it softer. If you've made it this far, thank you. Truly, your presence here matters. If any part of this resonated, go ahead and like or share this video. It helps others find their way here too. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you. In the comments, tell me what's one small habit that brings you joy these days. I'd love to read your answer, and so would the rest of this little community we're building. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self. You've earned it.